The Los Angeles Lakers have beaten the Miami Heat in the 2020 NBA Finals, which means a few things. It means that I have no footage of this happening because this is obviously made beforehand. It means that the Lakers have now tied the Boston Celtics for most championships of all time with 17. It means that Anthony Davis now has his first ring. And the most important part to this video, LeBron James now has his 4th championship, which can either mean two different things depending on which side of the argument you stand on. It can either mean he has now officially passed Michael Jordan as the greatest player of all time, or it means that he has now cemented himself as the 2nd greatest player ever. I did a community post where I basically asked this question, and as you can see, a lot of people agree with the second option rather than the first. Now, the thing about me is that I don't hate LeBron James. I'm putting this on record. I don't hate the guy. I just think a lot of people who think very highly of him hear my criticisms about him and automatically put me into that category. But no matter how you look at it, LeBron James once again proved his greatness, and he should always be given credit for that. Now, I considered making this video after I watched something that had nothing to do with basketball. It was a video about Tom Brady. And so I'm sitting there and I just think to myself, you know, these guys are just so great that we literally actively look for anything that isn't perfect about them. Obviously, LeBron James's resume is not on the level of Tom Brady or Michael Jordan, but it's still the same idea. So what I wanted to do is to take this time to look back on LeBron's career and explain my reasoning for the title, which is that LeBron James has nothing left to prove to us. But before we begin, if you're new here, I'm Double D. I'm a huge basketball fan and I make NBA videos here on YouTube. So if you're also an NBA fan, or just a basketball fan in general, feel free to hit the sub button and click the bell to be notified when I upload more videos just like this one. Also, according to YouTube analytics, around 86% of you guys that watch my videos are still not subscribed, and so I'd really appreciate that. Alright, let's get into the video. So LeBron James was drafted in 2003 and had the highest expectations for any prospect probably in the history of the NBA outside of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. We didn't know what we were going to get out of him because he was coming out of high school. And even being probably the greatest high school player of all time, people still reacted like this when he was drafted.
With the first pick in the 2003 NBA draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select LeBron James.
And this was mainly due to people not really believing in all the hype surrounding LeBron James, because this is only 2 years after the Washington Wizards selected Kwame Brown with the first overall pick, and as we all know, he turned out to be a massive bust. The same thing with Michael Olowokandi, who was selected in 1998. And so people were hesitant to buy into the hype surrounding an 18-year-old coming straight out of high school. So fast forward to his rookie season where he averaged 20.9 points, 5.5 rebounds, 5.9 assists, and 1.6 steals, and wins Rookie of the Year. LeBron then goes on to average 27.2 points, 7.4 rebounds, 7.2 assists, and 2.2 steals in just his 2nd season in the league. So all the doubts that were surrounding him were officially put to rest. If not, then the 2007 playoffs were the final nail in the coffin, and actually started comparisons to the best player in the league at the time, who of course was Kobe Bryant. In this 2007 playoffs, LeBron James averaged 25.1 points, 8.1 rebounds, 8 assists, and 1.7 steals, while playing 45 minutes per game. And I haven't even mentioned the famous Pistons Game 5, where the Cavs were fully on the ropes of going down 3-2 in the series. So what does LeBron do? He of course has what could be considered his 2nd greatest game ever, by scoring 48 points and scoring 25 in a row across the 4th quarter and the 2 overtimes, and hits the game-winning shot. They go back to Cleveland and the Cavs would close out the series in 6 games. We then get to the 2007 finals, which ends up being LeBron's first loss of many in the NBA finals, which we'll come back to later. But for now, let's just consider the fact that he at this point had pretty much exceeded every expectation people had for him, which has pretty much been the story of his existence. But at the end of the 2010 season, there was one specific expectation that still hadn't been met yet, because while he had 2 MVPs, a scoring title, and multiple Eastern Conference Finals appearances, he still hadn't achieved the one thing that everyone is playing for: a championship. So disappointed with the front office's inability to place another star next to him in his 7 years in Cleveland, other than a 320-pound Shaq who was clearly past his prime, LeBron decided to do the unthinkable, which was team up with 2 other superstar caliber players in Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh on the Miami Heat. From there, LeBron James became easily the most hated basketball player on the face of the earth. But he made a decision based on his need to win a championship, which is what they were expected to do for the foreseeable future, was win as many championships as possible. But of course, they did not account for the Dallas Mavericks, who ended up embarrassing the Miami Heat in the 2011 finals by winning in 6 games and also holding LeBron James to what can easily be considered to be the worst series of his entire career. And after game 6 of a finals where LeBron James scored 8 points in a game, was hesitant on offense, and was even outscored by Jason Terry, he had this to say about his haters.
Does it bother you that so many people are happy to see you fail?
Absolutely not. Because at the end of the day, all the people that was rooting on me to fail, at the end of the day, they got to wake up tomorrow and have the same life that they had before they woke up today. They got the same personal problems that they had today. And I'm going to continue to live the way I want to live and continue to do the things that I want to do with me and my family and be happy with that. So, they can get a few days or a few months or whatever the case may be on being happy about not only myself, but the Miami Heat not accomplishing their goal.
Which only made people hate him even more. So the 2011 offseason is where we see LeBron's career take a shift, as the Miami Heat and Dwayne Wade pretty much give LeBron James the freedom to be the first option and play however he wants, instead of having Dwayne Wade be the leader. And he takes this and becomes probably the best version of himself that we've ever seen. But the 2012 playoffs is where we would see all doubts about LeBron James's career up to that point be put to rest. The 2012 Eastern Conference Finals were between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics, a team that had a history of being one of the only obstacles that LeBron James was never able to overcome. And it looks like things are about to take that turn once again, with the Celtics up 3-2 heading back to Boston. LeBron's legacy was on the line, and he responded. 45 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists. Heat win by 19, and go on to win Game 7, with LeBron adding another 31 points in that game as well. The Heat go on to win the 2012 and 2013 finals, with LeBron again saving his legacy in the 2013 finals. Because people love talking about Ray Allen, but LeBron scored 16 points in the 4th quarter, which brought the Heat back into the game in the first place. The Heat come back and win Game 6 in overtime, and LeBron goes on to score 37 points in Game 7 and hit the dagger in the 4th quarter. He would win Finals MVP in both 2012 and 2013, but the Spurs would get the best of the Miami Heat in 2014, to which LeBron James responds by again doing the unthinkable in the 2014 offseason. He decides to go back to Cleveland, to those fans that burned his jersey, and he made a promise that he would deliver a championship to Cleveland after a pro sports title drought for the city that had been ongoing since 1964. He couldn't get it done in the 2015 finals, which is a series that's been talked about 4 or 5 times in depth on this channel, so I won't spend too much time here. LeBron for the series averages 35.8 points, 13.3 rebounds, and 8.8 assists while playing 46 minutes per game. Fast forward to the 2016 finals, which as a Golden State fan pains me to talk about, but it has to be said. The Cavs now have everyone back and healthy, and the Warriors have reached a new level by winning 73 games in the regular season, behind their unanimous MVP Steph Curry. The Warriors then blow through the first 2 rounds and face the OKC Thunder, who Andre Iguodala admits to saying was the best team in the 2016 playoffs. The Warriors come back from down 3-1 and advance to the finals and face the Cleveland Cavaliers, which a lot of people thought the real finals had already been played in the Western Conference Finals. The Warriors go up 2-0 before losing Game 3 and taking Game 4 on Cleveland's home court, behind Steph Curry's 38 points to go up 3-1. At which point, a lot of people, including myself, believed the series was over. And so we get to the Game 4 press conference where LeBron is at the stand and a reporter decides to ask this question.
Over on the left side?
Bill Livingston, plain dealer. LeBron, when the Warriors were up here, there was some talk about what trash talk crosses the line and what doesn't. Klay Thompson said, I guess he just got his feelings hurt. You talked about being a prideful guy and that some comments Draymond made. Would you discuss that whole issue of what's fair and not fair on the court?
What happened? What Clay said?
Yeah, and what crosses the line?
No, I'm not. What did you say Clay said?
Clay said, I guess he just got his feelings hurt.
Oh, my goodness.
I believe the transcript will support that.
Which, I gotta say this. Clay, like, what are you doing? Even until this day, I will never understand why he decided to do that. But I guess it is a good time to talk about some of the things that happened to Golden State. Draymond Green would get suspended for Game 5, Andrew Bogut would get injured in Game 5, and the Cavs staff would actually say that Steph Curry was playing nothing like he was in the regular season due to his MCL injury, saying, quote, "The film also revealed a subtle change in the Warriors' attack by design or by default. They preserved his body by letting him create off the dribble. He stopped running off the ball, and you could clearly see there was a gradual erosion to his game." And that's not even considering the knee injuries Klay Thompson was dealing with and Andre Iguodala's back problems. And I still make the case that the Warriors win in 5 games if none of that happens. But did LeBron James absolutely take over in the last 3 games of the series? Well, let's just take a look at the numbers. Game 5, 41 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. Game 6, 41 points again, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, 4 steals, and 3 blocks. Game 7, 27 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. And by the way, one of those 3 blocks just so happened to be this one.
LeBron James, the offense is running through me right now. Irving drives, hop step inside, floats it up, misses. Rebound taken by Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the... Oh, my goodness.
And by the way, from my own memory watching this game, I still could not tell you what actually happened or what I was thinking at that moment because it's still literally a blur. I just remember seeing Iggy go up for a layup, I saw this black blur go across the screen, and by the way I'm talking about the jerseys, but I just saw a black blur, and then J.R. Smith had the ball. This was at a point where neither team had scored in the last 3 minutes, and you eventually got the feeling that whoever scores first would go on to win the game. And of course, that's exactly what happened. Cavs complete the 3-1 comeback, LeBron delivers his promise of bringing a championship to Cleveland and ends the drought, and people had no choice but to start putting him in the GOAT conversation. But we're also going to talk about 2018. The 2017-2018 season would probably end up being the most problematic of LeBron's entire career. He had just lost Kyrie Irving, who requested a trade and ended up going to Boston. The team around him was less than ideal, with Kevin Love being his second best player, which isn't bad, but the rest of the team consisted of Dwayne Wade and Derrick Rose way past their primes, Isaiah Thomas, who was struggling with hip problems the entire season, Kyle Korver, who at this point is no longer the shooter he once was, and that team was just not working out. So at the trade deadline, with the Cavs being just 30-22, decided to make a lot of moves. They traded Derrick Rose, Isaiah Thomas, Dwayne Wade, and in return they received Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nash Jr., and Rodney Hood, who were all great young players who weren't struggling with injuries like the players they just traded away. And so the Cavs go on to finish 4th in the East, and were given absolutely no chance to win the finals by a lot of fans, including myself. In the 2018 playoffs, he goes on to average 34 points, 9.1 rebounds, 9 assists, and 1.4 steals, beating the Indiana Pacers in 7 games, miraculously sweeping the Toronto Raptors, and beating the Celtics in 7 games before losing to Golden State in the finals. Which brings us to this season. LeBron would go on to sign a 4-year deal with the Lakers in the 2018 offseason, and people immediately took this as an opportunity to bring up one of the biggest criticisms of his entire career up until that point, that he was in the Eastern Conference and he wouldn't be able to do what he did if he was in the West. And so after a disappointing season, which was only disappointing due to the amount of injuries to the Lakers in the second half of the season, including LeBron James himself, and after the announcement that he would be starring in Space Jam 2, people came to the conclusion that LeBron was only in LA to make movies, and that this was the end of LeBron as we knew him. He's 34 going on 35 years old, and he's just missed the playoffs. Enter Anthony Davis to the mix, and all of a sudden, the Lakers instantly become one of the 3 favorites to win the title. alongside the Clippers and the Milwaukee Bucks. The Lakers then go on to capture the first seed in the Western Conference, with LeBron James leading the league in assists, still averaging nearly 26 points and having MVP considerations at 35 years old. And Anthony Davis being in consideration for Defensive Player of the Year, and also being called the best teammate LeBron has ever played with. The Lakers then go on to gentlemen sweep the Blazers, the Rockets, and the Nuggets, and I mean, we can all see how the finals turned out. And so the idea that LeBron wouldn't make it in the West has now also been put to bed. And here's the thing that I wanted to talk about in this video, because no matter how many times we say the man can't do this or that, he proves us wrong pretty much every single time. And given how he's going, I have no problem believing that he will continue to prove us wrong for the foreseeable future. Because LeBron James is just flat out great, and that's what the greats do. And that was on full display in this playoff run. So take the lesson that Klay Thompson learned the hard way, and never poke the bear while he's sleeping. But with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new, hit the bell to be notified when I upload, comment down below what you want to see next, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.